Let me tell you the tale of Gloomwood, a stealth horror game brought to life by Dylan Rogers and David Szymanski, who you know as the guy who made Squirrel Stapler.
Where is it? Ah! Shit, boner!
You play as a doctor named Doctor.
Ah, good doctor.
Trying to find their way through a corrupted early 19th century town, all while taking cues from games released in the early 2000s and the late 90s. Gloomwood advertises itself as a game inspired by the Thief franchise. The devs even call it Thief with Guns. But coming from someone who never played any of those games, I feel like there's much more to it than a simple inspiration. You can call Gloomwood Thief-inspired the same way you can call Lisa the Painful Earthbound-inspired. It's the same genre, but they don't really play the same or have the same themes. I played the original demo that came out 2 years ago. I had just gotten through my first playthrough of Metal Gear Solid 5, and I wanted another stealth game to really fill that void. I found Gloomwood through watching Vinny of Vinesauce streaming it, and I had to try it for myself. I played through it, beat it after about an hour, but I didn't really think much of it initially, so I gave it some time. After a while, I went back to it, and this time I took my time and didn't rush through anything. What I found was a tightly designed game with a funky aesthetic that I really enjoyed. Eventually, I played it on every difficulty with a full playthrough, maybe taking like 20 minutes on easy mode. Then I started secret hunting. Collecting all these shiny gold coins will net you a sewer secret with a unique record player and a hidden note that's quite eerie, writing about a possible ally watching you from above. But sadly, it's not like a Hell Valley Skytree situation from Mario Galaxy 2. You don't actually see someone up there in the city skyline. Speaking of the city though, the city of Gloomwood is a dimly lit early Victorian hellhole filled with subhuman hunters that can either carry shotguns or axes. And they all want you dead, by the way. For a city that's implied to be filled with like death and disease, it's ironically pretty beautiful in a way that few modern games can achieve. I think it's the fact that the city looks like there's more to it, like the skybox and the large geometry really help that work. The game looks low poly with muddy textures to really sell that early 90s look, even to a fault, I think. There's no view models whatsoever when you hold your weapons, and the models themselves can look pretty ugly. The only other enemies in the game, the blind crowmen, also look rather unpolished when you really look at them in the light, which is probably why they're only in the dark sewers. But the demo wraps up with you entering the mansion of Countess Sylvia with a few words by Stephen White, better known as the Bean Foreman from Pajama Sam 3. You are what you eat from your head to your feet.
It's the BCS 4000 Operator's Guide by Dr. Gizmo Flutewing. Sprouts be praised, we can put the machine together.
That ought to just about do it.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
But then, nothing. Well, yeah, every now and then Dylan would post little updates on his own YouTube channel. We wouldn't get another playable demo until this year. The earliest public videos about Gloomwood date back to around 2017 with this. Quite the interesting prototype. Despite the blocky, unfinished geometry and the shotgun that does no damage at all, you can still see the formation of the demo's level design. Though of course, on the topic of classic videos, who could forget May I Cut In? TF2 Spy Commentary.
I don't bother with enemy spies unless they're directly, like, it'd be an easy kill for me. Otherwise, I let them...
Throughout the small showcases and podcasts, it's pretty clear to me that other games like Resident Evil 4, Deus Ex, Arx Fatalis, and more show themselves in Gloomwood's DNA, not just Thief. I'm going to move on to the early access version now, but I will like to compare it with the demo from time to time. For starters, unlike the demo, the current game does not actually take place in the city of Gloomwood. You begin trapped in a fish hole inside a fishery overrun by those awful hunter beasts, who now, instead of making horrible grunts and heavy breathing noises, are fully voiced by Gianni Matrograno.
What? Don't bother me again!
Good luck, Doc. You're gonna need it.
At first I thought he did the Half-Life 1 thing where they all have the same voice, but some of the NPCs are pitched higher, so you don't really get tired of hearing the same lines over and over. But no, it seems like the hunters here have two distinct voices, a deep, threatening one, and a higher-pitched, sadistic one. So hey, props to you, Gianni, good job.
I heard that, my clumsy friend.
He also voices the Doctor himself, so it's an endless loop of Gianni killing Gianni. Have fun spamming those voice lines, kids. This game doesn't hold anything back. You want Stephen White? Bam! Here you go at the start of the game.
Here, this ring should help you stay out of the light. You have many enemies here. The darkness will shroud you from them.
And if you turn your brightness all the way up, you can get a glimpse of his character model, but where's the fun in that? Also, he seems to vanish into a bunch of green sparkles, so this guy's definitely some sort of magic user. So anyway, once you break out, you can go through a helpful tutorial that is pretty natural, where you learn how to sneak, find alternate routes, and pick up helpful items along the way.
Clatherton.
Grab your stuff, kill this guard, and you're on your own. It's pretty open from this point on. You can go through the fishery, the route Dylan intended, but you can always sneak around the upper areas and get the revolver early. It's pretty neat, because you can turn off the light in this room and then see the hidden safe combination on the portrait of this dead guy. Of course, you can always just remember the combination because it was shown in the early access trailer and get it that way, but now let's mention the similarities between the demo and the current build. There's more than you might think. For starters, with some platforming and paying attention, you can get the revolver early. There are also coins to find, though in the case of the current build, you can actually get many coins that I assume are currency for a shop that's going to be added later. In both cases, you take a break from wandering around a populated area to go underground and deal with unique enemies that don't like hunters. Then you head back up, finish with some dialogue by Stephen White that related to Countess Sylvia. It's almost beat for beat a retread of the events of the demo. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The demo is good and fun, but it seems like he really had this one idea, this one sequence of how things would play out that he really wanted to hold on to and showcase. Unlike the demo, the inventory system was completely overhauled, where originally it was just a static bag that you kind of pulled stuff out that could hold pretty much anything you picked up. Here, it's a suitcase with a double-sided storage area to hold your important items, like your cane sword, your upgrades, your gold, keys, and on the other side is everything else. Empty bottles to distract enemies, ammo for your weapons themselves, and trinkets you find scattered throughout the map, like jewelry or other shiny objects. It's almost kind of funny watching their dev podcast where they come up with the idea and they talk about how it's this mind-numbing thing. It's like, oh, it took so long to come up with this idea. When in reality, from a gameplay standpoint, it's like, yeah, of course there'd be a separate tab for your key items. But I guess it's one of those solutions where the solution is so obvious, you don't really think of it in the moment. Listen, guys, they aren't hacks, alright? They know what they're doing, I promise. It's kind of why I'm starting to prefer indie devs these days, because they actually play video games and know what would or wouldn't be an inconvenience to the player. Now, I'd like to talk about the guns and the enemies, which in both versions have stayed relatively the same. I wish I could make a more direct comparison for each individual gun, but you can't even access the demo anymore since they took it down, so I hope my older footage is good enough. The first weapon you get, the cane sword, is the weakest, while also being the most powerful. There's a lot of jokes in the community that the Doctor is actually Blue Spy from TF2, like a huge conspiracy. But much like Spy, your sword does very little damage from the front, but is an instant killing backstab from behind. Combined with the lean ability, you can get some pretty sweet looking backstabs. Like, I bet he didn't think this window kill was possible in the demo, but hey, here we are. Much like Spy TF2, you don't need to stab the center of their back for it to actually count. Just being behind them seems to work fine, but hey, it feels better to hit them dead center. This also works on those awful fish dog enemies that live in the mines. A quick jab to the ass will put down the pooch. Your first gun is the classic revolver, able to grab early in that safe I mentioned before. It has 6 bullets. More than enough to kill anything that moves. It takes about 3, maybe 4 to kill the huntsman. I'm not really sure if headshots count. It's not really as reliable as you want it to be. Since all the guns are advertised as a last resort kind of thing, you'd think it would be a little bit stronger. Of course, I know the counter argument is that, oh, if you make the gun stronger, nothing would stop the player from just going on a total rampage. But by the end of my initial playthrough, I had so much ammo to spare, I was begging for some kind of Resident Evil safe room storage box, you know what I mean? I think if you're gonna buff the revolver, just make the ammo harder to find to make up for it. It could be a risk versus reward situation where, yeah, you have less ammo, but because the gun now does more damage, you can either clear out an annoying enemy or save it for something even worse down the road. The next gun you get is the Undertaker pistol, which you get in a secret cave to the right of the fishery. The combination puzzle's bullshit because you don't get the combo until the end of the demo if you missed it. And I feel like that defeats the point of having it. What am I gonna do? Walk all the way back to the start just to grab it? Or am I gonna start a brand new file, lose all my progress just to get this one weapon, then collect all my trinkets, ammo, and other shit all over again? Anyway, it has two types of ammo, slug and incendiary rounds. The slug rounds are supposed to be able to shut off lights when you shoot them, but I never got the thing to work. At least not the lights I actually wanted to break and turn off. It can also push buttons from far away, so that's okay, I guess. Considering it does no damage but is strong enough to break lights and push buttons, I figured headshots would stun enemies or knock them out, but it doesn't do either of those things. The only worthwhile ammo type is the fire bullet, because it's insanely easy to light one hunter on fire and then just kinda watch him run around for 45 seconds lighting every other one of his brothers on fire. They can't hurt you at all when they're in this state, so you can just let one run wild while you stroll past. Though, their screams are pretty funny, so it's obvious that Gianni studied the TF2 voice actors for how to react when being lit on fire. Finally, we have the shotgun, and while I certainly think you get it way too late, you get it at like the very end of the demo, it's still pretty powerful. It one-shots every enemy compared to that super early build where it pretty much did nothing. It's fittingly powerful for a final weapon, and it has great sound design. The models for each weapon have certainly come a long way from their earliest counterparts, especially from how they looked in the demo. I'm really happy to see this game come into its own in terms of visual identity, but a small part of me does miss the lavish, overbearing city skyline. So while I think the arsenal is great, the atmosphere is top-notch, I love the voice acting, and the ambient music and sound effects are very appealing, I'd like to complain a little more. I usually try to keep this to a minimum, but after waiting so long, I think it's warranted. It's also time I spill the beans a little. I received a Steam key for this game from Dylan himself after 2 years of a hard-fought campaign where I declared myself the world's biggest Gloomwood fan. And while I still hold that sentiment and love this game to pieces, I can't help but be a little disappointed by certain things in this game. I would be dishonest if I only had positive things to say just because I was given a free copy. So Dylan, Dave, if you're watching this, don't take it too harshly and know that I'm saying these things out of love. To be frank, I feel like there's some things I kinda liked a little bit more in the demo than I do the current version. You can find a monocle at the start of the game by activating a secret area, and with it you can actually zoom in. I remember thinking it was kind of bullshit to hide that feature away, but don't worry, it's completely gone in the EA version. I've combed over the entire map multiple times, and I've never found it. I don't know why they got rid of it. It really came in handy for spotting enemies that were up ahead and using that to plot your next move accordingly. And like I said, I really do think you get the shotgun a little too late in the current build as well. You get it at the very end, and if you're stealthing anyway, you won't really get to use it, whereas in the demo, you could find it almost as soon as you start if you just keep walking forward. There's also less difficulty options in the EA version than there are in the demo, with hard and easy mode currently being worked on. What? Limited saves as a feature for hard mode, by the way, really loses its impact when it doesn't mean anything. Every difficulty aside from the not yet implemented easy mode restricts saving to the phonographs. It takes away the impact of not being able to save anywhere as a feature when it's already like that for every other difficulty option. That's not much of a selling point. Why not make it so that Crescent and Half Moon difficulties can save whenever you want? Yeah, I know, Crescent is supposed to be the baby easy mode, but come on, man. Saving whenever I want when that mode is already going to be piss easy isn't even worth it. If you're gonna limit saves, do it on the actual full and Blood Moon difficulties. That's when it'll actually be warranted. With these lack of features, I really have to wonder what the hell Dylan was doing in the past 2 years. Could suitcase technology really take that long to develop? David Szymanski literally made Dusk, which has some of the best level design I've ever experienced in a game. And yeah, I know, designing for an arena shooter versus making an immersive stealth game isn't the same thing, but come on, guys. Another complaint is that the movement is a little too slow for me, and yeah, I know, it's a stealth game, so I shouldn't expect to be blazing by at sonic speeds, but even when you have everything holstered, you go from a walking speed to a slightly awkward jog. I found myself constantly hopping around in hopes of moving faster. and this is worsened when you're waiting for enemies to go by. Speaking of enemies, the AI is weirdly selective about when it chooses to be smart. I can massacre the huntsmen one after another, pull the sickest trick stabs worthy of any frag montage, and they won't bat an eye. But if I slightly move in their peripheral vision, they'll enter their alert stage and won't leave me alone, even managing to see me when I'm completely shrouded in darkness. That ring on your finger that isn't visible when you have everything holstered, even though it's supposed to visually demonstrate how lit up you are by the gem glowing, but you can't see it when you have everything holstered, it gets completely blackened out when you're shrouded in darkness. But even so, they can still see you when you're completely blacked out? That doesn't make any sense. This is especially true when you're in the mines, because I swear to God, these fish dogs are a huge pain in the ass, and the only thing I would genuinely call bullshit and not fun. While I think having the eyes of the dogs resemble the sparkling gems of the caves is a brilliant touch, something about them, I don't really know how to say this other than their smelling AI, is out of control. It feels like they can sniff you out no matter where you're hiding at, and when they're alerted, I swear to God, they don't stop being on edge, and their range for searching is huge. I found myself just being forced to kill them after they felt the need to investigate me, rather than the broken bottle I just threw 50 feet away. They are also hardly ever distracted by the dismembered body parts, which only exist in the game to distract them. As I've been writing this script, they've been hard at work tweeting about upcoming elements like hunters with metal armor to block backstabs, and new features coming to Blood Moon difficulty, but these should have all been features from the start. When I got to the slaughtered goat, I fully expected to have to sneak around some kind of monster. You know, like the one that was shown in the early access trailer? But all I got was being literally signposted into going away. Live Dylan reaction indeed. When I stopped talking to Countess Sylvia and got hit in the face with a to be continued screen, I actually got a little angry that it was already over. Yeah, I was a little distracted by how happy I was seeing the fucked up table to come back, but that's kind of a slap in the face. And yeah, I mean, you can continue playing to scoop up anything you miss, and if you do, you'll find this cute credit secret and a hidden look at the new Crowmen. But again, it's gated off and under development. I'm not a game developer, I know nothing about games, I know that making games is really fucking hard, and I have nothing but respect for game developers. And again, it's kind of hard for me to be mad at someone who makes some of my favorite things ever, but at the same time, that's it? Also, minor shitpick here, it really doesn't make sense that the hunter's first instinct is to kill you whenever they see you. But once the doctor starts killing them, they have the go-ahead to hurt you too. No, because none of them even know you escaped. Remember when those two goons blow up the bridge and the other guy is like,
You dunderhead, why did you do that? You didn't ring the alarm. But now we've made sure he can't get away. How do you think they're going to cart him to the city now? We'll build a new bridge. Shut up. What?
yeah, there was no alarm sounded that the doctor got away. For all any of them know, he's still supposed to be carted into the city to meet with Sylvia alive and unharmed.
Prepare a carriage. They want us to bring him to the city gates.
What does the Countess want with him anyways?
Don't know. I just want to get the job done, get paid, and not go anywhere near her mansion after that.
No matter. I can guarantee your safe arrival. A promise few others here can make.
I think a bad ending where he actually gets captured would be interesting. Or even, since this is an immersive sim, if you actually wait long enough in your cell, the guards will come to you and you get locked up in that carriage they prepared, skipping the first chunk of the game and dropping you off in the city. There, you can actually try to escape once you arrive. That would be kick-ass. Well, this is getting rather long and rambly, so I'll try to wrap things up now. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic preview for what's to come, but I'm afraid that's all it really is. A pretty great preview. I have full confidence in Dave and Dylan to produce something magical with what they've got. I'm greatly looking forward to finding every single trick, extra route, and other stipulations for playing that the community comes up with. Even now, there's speed runs, no inventory runs, pacifist runs, and this insane trick where you throw an item then grab onto it at the same time as it's going away, and you launch yourself at like 1,000,000 miles per hour. Although I do have this lingering fear that once the game comes out proper, it'll be too long for any of these niche, fun, quick playthroughs. If this demo has about an hour, maybe 2 hours of content, and we're going off games like Thief 1 and 2, then I expect the full game to take at least 20 or so hours to finish. But at the rate we're at now, which is 2 years for 2 hours, I expect to see the full game released sometime in 2040. But hey, I'm just being an asshole. Dylan, if you're watching this, I can't wait to see what you've got cooking. Just keep all the dismembered hunter parts out of that stew, alright? Thanks. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Special thanks to my patrons like that guy for supporting the channel and helping me grow. Membership starts at $1, so no matter the budget, you too can help out. Here's some fan art from my Discord server that I'm quite fond of, and I will see you later.